Hello everyone, my name is Omar Munoz and this is my 7.1 presentation for ESH 520 Sustainable Energy.
During this presentation, I will be going over the scenario that I used throughout this course, which is a small family farm in the Central Valley of California. And I will be associating it with my capstone, the mesh project, and identifying the main injustices and implications of this case.
First, I'm going to start by making the connection between my capstone project and the scenario that I use throughout this course. The scenario that I use is a small family owned farm in the California's Central Valley. And I use this because it offers a valuable window of learning opportunity because it's directly associated to nitrogen-based fertilizer emissions, which is at the center of my capstone project. The energy audit analyzed the farm's energy consumption patterns, examining fertilizer application, irrigation, and various operations. And this way, reducing the nitrogen emissions as a result of the fertilizer, which is at the center of the mesh project.
Additionally, the scenario that I use in this course directly correlates to mesh and also my capstone because they both are at the heart of the foundation of mesh, which are engineering, sustainability, and health. Engineering is widely used in agriculture, and agriculture aims to be sustainable. And health is important because the outcome of agriculture is to provide healthy food.
The justice implications of the mesh project lays on the unequal distribution of environmental burdens and benefits. For example, the use of nitrogen-based fertilizers significantly contributes to the release of nitrogen oxides into the atmosphere. This pollution disproportionately affects local communities, leading to deteriorating air quality and a host of related health issues, including respiratory problems and cardiovascular disease. It is crucial to acknowledge the unique health challenges posed by nitrogen-based fertilizer emissions. By fostering an inclusive dialogue that centers on the perspectives of these communities, we can prioritize their needs and rights while advocating for sustainable agricultural practices that promote both environmental and public health.
The distributive justice in this case reveals that the farm's reliance on nitrogen-based fertilizer leads to nitrogen oxide emissions that significantly degrade local air quality. Unfortunately, the resulting health risks are not evenly distributed. Low-income and marginalized communities in the Central Valley face disproportionate burden, suffering greater health challenges from pollution while often lacking the means to protect themselves. For example, while it is true that small family-owned farms contribute to nitrogen oxide emissions, the large majority of the emissions come from the large farming corporate operation. For example, several large farming corporations operate in California's Central Valley, including the Taylor's Farms, Harris Farms, and Cargill, and other significant players, including Mushi Farms, which are specialized in cultivating fruits and nuts. And they are the major contributors of NOx emissions in this area. However, the burden of the pollution in the air is shared by everyone.
Distributed recognition and energy justice implications. The distributed justice implications arise from the unequal burden placed on local communities. For example, the energy audit that we conducted earlier in this course identify ways to reduce the farm's carbon footprint, which could lead to a more sustainable distribution of environmental benefits among local residents. In their recognitions of justice, the farm's operation should consider the voices of the experiences of community members who are affected by these emissions. By integrating community feedback into the energy audit process, the farm can better align its practices. Additionally, the farm's energy audit can serve as a pathway to restore practices by addressing the environmental damage caused by its operations. Implementing sustainable practices and reducing emissions can help to restore air quality in the community, thereby rebuilding trust between the farm and the local community. Here we can see some of the outcomes as a result of restoring energy implications, which are reducing emissions, improving air quality, and restoring trust with the community by engaging with the locals to rebuild trust and foster collaborations between the farms and the residents. In the scenario used throughout this course and in my capstone for the mesh project, the issue at heart is at the emissions as a result of the use of nitrogen-based fertilizers, which are used by small farmers and big farmers. But however, everyone is affected by their emissions because we all breathe the air that is around these farms and especially in the Central Valley of California. So some of the ways to address this injustice is by policy advocacy, advocating for regulations that limit the NOx emissions from agricultural practices, and community engagement, establishing forums for community input on agricultural practices and their impacts, and sustainable practices, encouraging farmers to adopt more sustainable farming techniques that reduce the reliance of harmful fertilizers. One of the most important questions in this final assignment is how addressing the energy injustices in the scenario that I use during this course can help me doing the same on my mesh project. And that turned out to be very easy to answer because this scenario of a small farm in Central Valley, California, it's very aligned with my capstone. It contains energy solution which because engineering can optimize fertilizer applications and improve irrigation's efficiency to reduce energy use and emissions, as well as sustainable practices which sustainability in agriculture aligned with the broader efforts to minimize harm to local ecosystems. It also addresses public health because by reducing NOx emissions, it will directly improve the air quality and respiratory issues in the community. And finally, it covers environmental justice because in this scenario, this raises questions of equitable treatment of affected communities and their well-being. One of the most important ways to addressing energy injustices is by involving the communities that are affected and implementing sustainable practices that can help to mitigate health impacts and improve community relationship and contribute to a healthier environment and community overall. By addressing the energy injustices in this scenario and prioritizing community involvement and sustainable practices, the farm can transition towards a more equitable and environmentally friendly operation, which can serve as a model for a broader changes in agricultural sector. I hope you all enjoyed this presentation and I will see you next time. Thank you for listening.